If you go through your competition days feeling pretty good to start off with, and then notice yourself crash with energy halfway through or in the last leg of your race or comp, it's less likely due to you not being adapted to your training or being fit enough and prepared for the event versus just not fueling correctly. So today we're going to go through exactly how to time your meals correctly around your competitions, what sort of fuel is going to set you up for success, and get you mapping out a plan of exactly what to do on your next competition. So stay tuned for all of my tips, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my other videos, and yeah, let's get started. So fueling incorrectly on competition day can really hold you back. This is because your working muscles are reliant on your stored glycogen and your carbohydrates that are circulating in your bloodstream to help support your sprint efforts, your power, your speed, and your strength, and of course your energy levels. So if your glucose levels and your carbohydrate levels reduce, all of these factors are then reduced as well. So if these carbohydrate stores and carbohydrates that are circulating in your blood drop too low, this then of course affects all of those things that I said above. So your speed, your power, your strength, your energy, and that's because your calcium release slows down, your muscle contraction is then affected, and your ability to push harder for longer diminishes because you do not have enough energy left in your tank to support you. Your low blood glucose also affects your brain, so it affects your reaction time to things, your decision making, how clear and focused you are in your game or in your competition. That's then where tactical errors creep in and you're making decisions that you wouldn't normally because your brain doesn't have the fuel that it needs to have a sharp mind and put the focus in where it's needed. Not fueling correctly can look like anything from not eating at all or having mistimed meals that are too high in fiber, too high in protein, not enough carbohydrates or not the right type of carbohydrates to help support the length and intensity of your competition, which can then lead to you not getting enough energy at the right times to support your comp, leaving you feeling bloated. You have a stomach full of food that's not digested, you get cramps, everything can be a nightmare from there if you're not nailing the timing, the types of food, and the amounts of food that you need to perform your best. So your pre-competition meal should be had around 2 to 4 hours before the comp starts. This meal is a little bit more balanced. So you'll have a priority of reaching about 1 to 4 grams of carbs per kilo of body weight, but you can also pair this with a moderate amount of protein, fats, and fiber. Because you still have time before the competition starts to digest this food properly. The carbohydrates in itself has the goal of refilling your stored muscle glycogen and also making sure you have a steady flow of glucose that's coming in close to the event or before your event so that you have enough energy to start. If you have not tried to have a main meal before a competition before, start with 1 gram of carbohydrates per kilo of body weight and then work your way up to 4 grams of carbs per kilo. The reason why it's important to eat something beforehand is because you're going to be burning energy across that 4-hour period or across the 2-hour period before your training or before your comp starts. You're likely walking around, you're likely driving to comp, you're going to be warming up. There's going to be certain protocols that you have that is going to be burning energy across that time. If you're not eating beforehand, your stored carbohydrates become lower and lower and lower. And if you are fueling 30 minutes before your comp, your body is at such a deficit of energy already because you haven't had a proper meal that you're going to always start your competition at a deficit of energy. So you want to make sure that you are fueling with a proper meal beforehand and not just relying on a small snack that you think is going to pull you through to the end of your comp because it won't cut it. Some meals that are suitable in this instance is anything from oats with some protein powder and some yogurt and banana. You can also turn this into a smoothie if you like. Some eggs with some white bread is also perfect, or if your competitions are later in the day, maybe a chicken stir fry with some white rice. So the next meal that you should be prioritizing, well, it's actually a snack. So your pre-competition snack, you'll be having this about 1 to 2 hours before comp starts. The aim of this snack is to just top up your glycogen from your meal that you had previously. Like I said before, you're going to be using some of that energy from that meal because you'll be moving around, you'll be walking, etc. So the goal of this snack is to top up any stored glycogen and blood glucose from whatever you used from the meal before. So like I said previously, you are going to have your main meal 2 to 4 hours before. You're then likely going to be burning off some of that meal and using that energy for whatever activity you're doing across that time, whether it's walking, driving, etc. It doesn't matter. But that 1 to 2 hour snack that we're going to be having now is topping up anything that you've used from that meal. Your target of carbohydrate should be around 1 gram of carbs per kilo of body weight in simple and easily digestible sources. Some options can include rice cakes with jam, banana and yogurt. You can also have a sports drink and some pretzels. Pretzels are a great option because they're usually salty. And what that means is you're getting a little bit more electrolytes through your snack as well to help you stay well hydrated too. And your last final boost before your competition starts is your pre-comp primer, which you should have about 15 to 30 minutes before it's go time. Your aim here is to try and hit about 0.5, even upwards of 1 gram of carbs per kilo of body weight in similar options as I mentioned before. Simple, easily digestible. You can have options like medjool dates, a really ripe banana, energy gels, a carbohydrate fluid with maltodextrin. I even like having honey sticks. They're great and delicious. So yeah, any of those options are great. And yeah, have that 15 to 30 minutes before your warm up or before your competition starts for that final boost of glucose. From your pre-comp snack and pre-comp primer, you want to keep fiber, fats, and protein pretty much to 0. Your aim here for the last 2 hours or 1.5 hours is to make sure that you are not having any food that's going to be sitting in your stomach. You want things that are going to be rapidly absorbed and digested so you're not heading into your competition with cramps and bloating and gas, because that's yucky. Now, this might not be applicable to everyone, but if your competition's lasting more than 90 minutes, you also need an intra boost. The reason why your pre-comp snacks and meals are not enough is because after 90 minutes, when you're working at a high intensity of 70% or above, your stored and your blood glucose levels essentially drop down. Sometimes to 0 if you're working at a really high intensity, but it can drop down to a level where you start feeling fatigue mid-session or mid-comp, even though you fueled correctly beforehand. So you do need a little bit of a boost to make sure that you have a steady flow of glucose and energy across the whole comp. But the main thing that you would change here is selecting options that are most suitable for your sport. For any strength sports, you will have longer rest times and you'll have the ability to be able to have a snack and actually eat something. So you could use something like a medjool date, dried fruits, lollies, bananas, etc. But if you are an endurance athlete, you're running, you're in a team-based sport, you don't have the opportunity to be able to actually sit down and eat something, you might be more reliant on energy gels or sports fluids that are full sugar electrolyte drinks like Powerade and Gatorade, or any carbohydrate fluid mix as well. If you want to know exactly how many carbohydrates you need, depending on how long your competition is, head to my last video. I discussed exactly how many carbs per hour you need for different lengths of training, different lengths of competitions, and also some tips around what the best options are and how to incrementally consume your snacks across your comps. And then of course, your competition doesn't just stop once the comp's over. You need to then prioritize your recovery afterwards. You're likely going to have maybe a rest day the next day and then bounce back into training the day after. So you need to make sure that you're recovering well from the fatigue that you've just undergone and the stress and inflammation from your competition so that you can bounce back the next day, and the next day after that when you go back to training, you're feeling good and ready to go. So about 15 to 30 minutes after your competition's finished, you want to prioritize a high protein and high carbohydrate snack. Alongside this, you also want to be consuming fluids with electrolytes to help replenish any sweat loss that you've gone through in the competition. So your aim for the snack is to have around 15 to 40 grams of carbohydrates, as well as at least 0.4 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. This amount is so specific because it delivers the right amount of leucine, which is an amino acid that you need to support and enhance muscle protein synthesis so that you can kickstart that recovery process and start rebuilding and repairing your muscles. So some really quick ideas is to have a high protein chocolate milk. So Rokabees, I know Dairy Farmers just brought out a new high protein smoothie milk that you can buy from Coles, and pairing this with a muesli bar. You can also have a homemade protein shake, have a banana in it, some honey, already have it all made and ready to go for you to have after your session. So the aim here is to refuel your glycogen, so refuel your carbohydrates. You want to repair your muscles repair with protein, and you also want to rehydrate with fluids and electrolytes. And this will help support your recovery overall and make sure you're bouncing back quickly. Now, of course, you also want to have a main meal. So that 15 to 30 minutes just starts the recovery process, and then you want to make sure you're going home or stopping off on the way and getting a well-balanced meal at least 1 to 2 hours after your comp's over, so you have a form of complex carbohydrates, vegetables, fats, and more protein to help support your recovery. All right, so I've gone through everything that you should be doing and all the tips that you can follow on comp day, and now I'm going to go through a few of the main errors and mistakes that I noticed lots of athletes making despite having the strategies and knowledge in place. So make sure you don't make these mistakes because they will affect your performance on comp day. The first one is eating your main meal 1 hour before your comp starts and not 2 to 4 hours. If you're having your main meal, which is a little bit more balanced, it's larger, it takes longer to digest, you're likely going to feel it slosh around in your stomach during your warm-up. You don't want that. Make sure your main meal is 2 to 4 hours before, and then you're having nothing but snacks 1 to 2 hours, between that 1 to 2 hours before go time. The second one is relying on high fiber bars or nut bars, or even protein bars before your comp starts. So instead of having an easily digestible carbohydrate snack, you're having a muesli bar or a protein bar that you think is going to give you enough energy to perform your best. It's likely that they're going to be sitting in your stomach and not digesting at a fast rate and releasing the energy that you're looking for to perform your best. The third mistake is skipping your intra-training boost if your session's lasting more than 90 minutes, and then wondering, oh, why am I fatiguing out in that last 5Ks or last 30 minutes of my comp? It's not because of poor training adaptations or low levels of fitness. It's purely because your glucose has run dry and you need more energy to perform well. So make sure you fuel during your session, and make sure you head to my last video so you know exactly how many carbs you need per hour. And the fourth mistake is finishing up your comp. You're so excited, you crushed it, you did really well, but then you're chatting with your mates or your coach or whatever, and you don't have any fluid, you're not prioritizing your protein or your carbohydrate snack. So make sure you're already prepared before your competition. Have your snacks in your bag, have your protein bar, your banana, your electrolyte drink, or your water bottle. That's all ready to go so you can grab it as soon as your comp's done. You can chat away and also rehydrate and refuel while you're at it. I hope this video was helpful. I think I covered a fair amount of things that's going to help set your competition up for success. So please drop any comment below if you have any further questions for me. I'll be sure to answer them. And don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video next week. Bye bye.